How are we, my friends? We are back with another episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast. Delighted to say I'm joined once again with Mr. Chris Stonage and Mr. Conor Crosby. I think we know where we're going to start, gentlemen, after last night's, well, I'm going to say fiasco, Chris. We talked in the last episode, mate, about whether the owners would start to slow play Arna's contract extension. And today the news comes out that very much looks like that is what they're doing. Now, we'll get to what should happen to the manager in a moment, but this is just common sense, surely. You mean you're going to need to see a reaction from your manager before you reward him with another new deal?
Well, yeah, exactly. We've seen it this season in hand, really, with Wolves awarding their manager a new contract, a bumper contract, backing him to the hilt. Unfortunately, Arne Slot hasn't really got a leg to stand on when it comes to it. I mean, he can't really push back. I understand he won the Premier League last season, but this is his first real test, and it is a real test. I thought last night was really, really poor. I'm not actually blaming any of the players that set foot on the pitch last night. This is the first time I'm doing that all season.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Chris.
Like that's the first time, like, for me, that's completely on him. I thought it was an absolute disgrace. I thought people within their right to walk out early last night, and I usually more of a someone to say, come on, just stay at the ground, like, support to the end. But that was a disgrace. And I felt really sorry for the young players who were going out there and being sacrificed. And yeah, why would you offer him a new contract in this moment? It's a real sort of moment of a crossroads, really, whether he can turn it around or whether it will go downhill.
And I don't know whether you were lucky last night or unlucky, because in one sense you didn't have to really sit through that the way the rest of us did, but in another sense you then had to go and pull in clips from it. So I can't decide whether you're extra traumatized or you got away lightly from last night. But either way, tell us quite how scarred you are from that performance, sir.
Oh, it's just like, when it got to the second half, like, I was just like, no, I'm too busy now doing work. I can't watch it, as if like I wouldn't be like watching intently every other week. It was just an excuse, really. But it was just like, it was game over. And like we said it so many times last night, that the bench was the big thing. And the fact that, like, the second we went behind, that was it. Like, there was no point even watching from that point onwards. Like, we fought well for the first half an hour or so, but after that, then it was just no point even watching it. And like, in fairness to the lads, they done well up until that point, but then they just completely capitulated, which is understandable given how young the squad was and everything as well. But yeah, just bizarre, the whole thing.
I mean, Conor touched on it there, Chris. It's certainly in the chat last night when the team news came out. Conor always sends it to me just before I go live, and I had to double check. I had to like really go through this list and say, he got the right team here, because I think we all understand, Chris, and certainly the chat understood, the starting 11 was going to be very, very much changed. But you always got 3, 4, 5 big players on the bench. And yes, you'll rest your Van Dijks and your Salahs, but there's always been a Szoboszlai or an Ekitike, or it's somebody. That is what caused the real frustration with fans. And Arne said before the game, anybody who supports this club, watches this club, knows we play young players in this competition. That's only half the context, though. He didn't give the other half, that we have had to rescue it before and then go to the latter stages and win it with the younger players. It just felt like that team selection was just giving away the game before it even started.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I mean, he has to come up with a caveat, like, yeah, we've played young players in the competition, but when I remember we went through a real phase of playing Premier League teams early on in rounds, and we had to put out a strong team because we didn't want to embarrass ourselves. I genuinely don't think the lads were embarrassed last night. I thought they did quite well, a lot of them. Especially, like, for example, like Calvin Ramsey. We haven't seen him in 3 years, and I don't think he has a future at the club, but fair play, he turned up last night. And there's a couple of others as well that I just felt sorry for. And the thing is, when you have that scenario, you want to look to your senior players to be able to drag you through. Unfortunately, I just don't think there was enough of them there to do that. You know, you look with young Kieran Morrison, he was looking maybe to Rio Ngamoa to try and inspire him, and he was one of the more senior players last night, which is one of the crazy things in terms of appearances. I think it's totally on the manager, that.
It's a difficult one, isn't it, Conor? Because in some senses, you can understand why he'd go weak with the 11, but there are still match-going fans that paid their money to travel to see that game last night, including Grandad. By the way, shout out to Grandad. And that's what wound me up the most, mate. Like, I was watching Sky Sports last night. I always record back pages tonight to watch after I finish my streams and stuff. And they were saying, like, in fairness, this is not Liverpool fans. They do not leave stadiums early. So you can see how defeated everybody felt when that stadium started to empty out with 10, 15 to go.
Yeah, like I said, it was just the second we went behind, the game was essentially over. And like, you can't blame the fans for leaving early at all, especially when the main stand was seemingly leaked on them as well. The whole roof was falling down last night. Like, it's all just going to shit. But like, it is just ridiculous. Like, the starting 11, like, fair enough, you're going to start some young lads as well. But like, I just quickly pulled up the Southampton game in the cup. Mamardashvili, Frimpong, Leone, Gomez, Robertson, Endo Jones, Chiesa, Neone, Engamoha, and Isak. Like, compare that to last night. And then on the bench, we had Kirkes, Bradley, and Ekitike, and then fair enough, some young lads. But like, that is a stark contrast. Like, he's saying he's playing younger players, which he did do in the first game, but he just went completely taking the piss with this one. So even that excuse doesn't wash either. Like,
To further what Connor said there, Chris, I made a point last night of going through Arsenal, Spurs, Newcastle, Chelsea, every other team that was both in Europe and playing in the League Cup last night. And there was a mixture of, strength in their 11s, but every single one of them had most of the big hitters on the bench. And as Connor said, we have 4 injuries, I think, to outfield players. If you disregard Allison, we 4 injuries to outfield players. And then the manager's going on, look, we have a tiny squad that he can barely put 16 together. I mean, it's just one excuse after the other.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I kind of brought up that match. Like, we have probably more excuse to field this 11 in that match than we did in this one. Because that one, was early on in the season, more games coming up and up and up. I understand we've got that same situation, but we need to dig ourselves out of a hole here. Like, I saw Andy Cole speaking, and he said this was a perfect opportunity for Liverpool. And we said it before on the podcast as well. This is a perfect opportunity to get that winning feeling going again. Winning breeds winning, Craig. You say it all the time. I understand Villa is the biggest game right now, and it was the biggest game out of the 3 anyway. It's even more big now because you've got and rested all your players. If we don't come out with a big result against Villa on Saturday, that makes that result completely void. That it just losing breeds losing as well. So it's a lot of pressure on Saturday, man.
You know what worries me, Connor, about Saturday? Historically, from my memory anyway, we aren't great when we give people a break. Like, when we go warm weather training, or when people have a full week to recover, we ain't great. And then we'll hear the manager talking about rhythm and the players need to be in the rhythm. Now, the thing that really gets me, Mr. Crosby, is we're in October. We're not in February. Like, we're in October. How is anybody worn out or exhausted yet? They switched off the end of last season because we were in cruise control within the league. Then they had a proper summer break for many of them, probably the first proper summer break they've had in a few years. And we come in fully prepared for the season. And now the manager's just making excuses after spending 450 great British pounds, 450 million great British pounds, mate. It's just not right.
£450, yeah, I was going to say that wouldn't be great. But yeah,
like I still wouldn't be taking his excuses, to be honest.
Yeah. But like, it is just ridiculous. But I've seen people trying to argue that this morning. Like, is that more on Richard Hughes and the people above Slot, like in terms of squad planning, like getting rid of Diaz, Darwin, we lost Jota, obviously, Trent has gone. Like, there is some sort of an argument there for, like, maybe we lost more players and we should have brought in, like, a number 6 at a centre-back as well. But, like, to come out with these excuses, like you said, in October, like, we're not even deep into the season yet and we're already hearing this. So it's ridiculous, and it's more just excuse-making again, which seems becoming very commonplace with Arna after games recently, which is more worrying than results are as worrying, if not worse.
I want to talk about Joe Gomez for a second, Chris, if I may. Connor made a very good point to me actually afterwards. He said Joe Gomez looked all right up until we conceded the first goal, and then he seemed to just fall apart. And it took me back to the Southampton game where he had a stinker there as well. So they're the only 2 real appearances we've seen from Joe this season. And he's our only backup centre-back, mate. So please make all of this make sense to me and how we've landed ourselves in this position.
Yeah, he looks so poor on the ball. I look, he hasn't played at all. I understand that, and it's just, but these are basic errors, especially leading to Palace. I think it was just after their first goal. He sort of like did this weird little flick in the middle of the pitch, and immediately they played in. I think it was Pino was in 1-on-1 with Woodman. It was so open, and especially in that scenario, we probably needed Gomez to come out and be a leader. Look, I love him. I've got so much respect for him, but he should not be our backup centre half anymore. He should be at best 4th choice, if not 5th, if not 6th. Like, his body is gone to shit now, and I think his footballing ability, you worry about it when he's coming out and making these individual errors. It's a real worry.
To be fair, I mean, you can throw in the argument that we've been unlucky with Giovanni Leone, but we're still 18, so we're still talking about a very young, inexperienced centre half that would have to come in and be the hero of the pack. It's it's really. I asked this question the other day, Connor. You weren't on the stream or the video with myself, Chris, and Steve. So I want to ask you: have you any buyer's remorse of anybody from the summer? Anybody that looking back? I'll give you my jumping off point. I don't have buyer's remorse about it, but I certainly question Frimpong. And not because of the quality of the player. I question where we're going to utilise him because he's not a right back. Arne doesn't seem to want to play him at right back. He's not a right winger. And the one position we probably all sit here and agree he plays his best in, we don't play, which is right wing back. So that would be the one for me. But again, nothing against the player individually, just more, just don't see the system working with him in it. So for you, any buyer's remorse?
Yeah, I kind of jumped to Frimpong as well when you said that, just in terms of, again, the system doesn't really lend itself to what he's used to. Like, his main position doesn't even exist in our team. And on top of that, then, like, it probably was a case of, we got him for what, like £29.5 million, when he probably would have went for 45, 50, 60. Like, I think it was more something maybe along the lines of Chiesa last season, even, just the fact that he's a cheap player that could work out rather than this is a tailor-made player for this system. So, not to say I have buyer's remorse on him just yet, but I do question that one slightly. Aside from that, like, the individuals, I understand, but going back to, again, like, we just needed a centre-back. Like, I think we just kind of glossed over that nearly too much, didn't we? And even in terms of squad planning, like, we did just miss out on that, and possibly another DM as well. So no buyer's remorse on the player specifically, but I think we did leave ourselves a little bit short in certain areas.
Defensively, Chris, why do you think we're more vulnerable these days compared to maybe last season?
Oh, I think there's so many answers to that question. I think, as we've touched on before, defending from the front has been really disjointed when we're used to such a well-oiled machine. Midfield-wise, I love our midfield. I really do. I love Gravenberch. I think Soboslai's brilliant. I think when McAllister's on it, he's brilliant. McAllister's not fit. He's still not fit. I don't know what's going to take for him to get fit, but it's going to take a while, clearly. Soboslai's playing at right back. That's leaving Gravenberch exposed. Going forward, I think he's brilliant. And even defensively, I think he's quite underrated. But then that's leaving our centre-backs exposed. Then you've got our full-backs who I have no words for Milos Kerkez. I love him, and I think he's got a lot of raw potential. But yeah, I worry for him defensively. And I think Bradley's a walking yellow card and Frimpong's always injured. So that's just glossing over the why we're defensively fragile, and also his confidence as well. I think
don't forget our tiny squad as well,
and our tiny squad,
our tiny little squad that we have. So Connor, I want to ask, what is it going to take for you to say push the panic button? Time to go. P45. Bye bye. Adios. Thanks for your service, Arne. But we're going to have to look elsewhere. What's it going to take? We discussed this the other day, and Chris, I think if I remember correctly, Chris, you're happy to give him the season. Is that right?
I said he could lose every game till Christmas.
Okay, that's what he did say. That's fair. Myself, I've publicly said this. If he loses 2 of the next 3 games, that's bye-bye for me. But for yourself, Conor, and the reason I'm going to say that, by the way, is yes, partly for standards, but also there has to be something wrong internally at that point. It's not just a bad run of games anymore. It's your words aren't getting through. They've no reaction. That's why I would say it. But I also fully understand if somebody would say, I want to give him the season, because for what it's worth, I think FSG will give him the season. I do think they will want to see signs of improvement, but I think they will certainly, with the stuff with Diogo as well, will play into this thinking, and rightly so. So that's where I'm at. That's where Chris is at. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's going to be like a sliding scale for me, in all honesty. Like, I'm kind of just off to the side here now where I'm Arne in, but I will gradually move across to the point where, like, if he gets sacked, I won't be heartbroken, rather than screaming and shouting for wanting him out specifically. I think, like, to really put a push to get him out, I would have to say it'd have to be, like, clearly evident the players don't trust him anymore, and it's got to the point where he's actively damaging the club, which I don't think we're quite at that point yet, but, like, it's getting very, very close, in all honesty, to the point where I'm leaning out, but not, like, shouting for the manager's head either. But, like, I wouldn't be upset if he did go, if we lose the next, let's say, 3 games, in that kind of sense. But I think the Villa game is going to be huge, because, like, basically tanking that game last night in preparation for that game, he has to get a win. So if we lose that one, then serious questions have to be asked.
Genuine question to you both, and I'll start with you, Chris. has his post-match interviews added to your frustration at what we're seeing?
Yes and no, because I understand from our point of view as a fan, we want to hear him actually come out and say, "No, we were shit," because that's what we all are thinking. But let's not forget, Jurgen Klopp was the master of the post-match excuse, even winning, losing, everything. This isn't a new thing. We saw Jurgen blame the rain. We've seen him, everything like that. I don't think it's a new thing, and I wouldn't specifically say it's Arna, but it is. I'm not saying it's not frustrating, because it really is. We want to hear what actually he really thinks, but I think he's actually doing exactly what he wants to do, and that's having the heat on him and away from the players.
See, I don't think Chris is doing that. I mean, I've seen, as you said, Jurgen do it. I've seen Jose Mourinho do it. He was a master at it. With Arna, from me, my perspective is, I've heard Andy Robertson come out and talk about standards, but with Arna, all I seem to hear is excuses, and none of them are down to his failings ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what winds me up.
Yeah, I completely see your point. I personally think it's a deflection tactic, but it's starting to get to the point where it's becoming more and more frustrating as a fan to listen to.
And one more question for you, Chris, before I push the same questions to Conor. Does his demeanor in any way rub you up the wrong way? Because let's contrast himself and Jurgen. For me, it's easy to say, look at Arnott and say he doesn't care as much because he's not as outwardly showing his emotion. But I know from watching sport, reading biographies, and that people all care in different ways, and they show that in different ways. But I'm somebody who connects more to an emotional individual, to a potentially flawed individual. So for me, his demeanor it adds to. I don't want to admit this, but I'm being honest. It adds to it. The same with Virgil. When he's defending well, his aura is great. But when he's not, and you don't think he's doing the hard yards, it only adds to the frustration. I feel the same with Arna.
Yeah, I understand that. But did you feel the same last season at all?
In which way?
Did you feel the same about Arna, where his demeanor rubbed you up the wrong way, or was it?
That's a good question. It's a fair question. I think obviously when you're winning, right? These things. What wound me up last season, actually, and I have said this on record, so I can back it up, is his absolute balls out praising of Paris Saint-Germain, almost to a inferiority complex level.
Yeah, that
wound me up.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, they were pretty good though, to be fair.
Oh, they were brilliant, mate. But they were saying we're going to come to Anfield and we're going to win it, and he's kind of like, yeah, Luis Enrique's great. This whole system's great. I want to be like these. They're all my great friends, and I'm just like, dude, beat them and then say all this nice stuff.
I think it's just a case of we're not winning games, to be honest. And we can try and pick holes and everything, but if we're winning games, that demeanor is great, because we're like, oh, he's just slightly more internal in the way that he thinks. He's cool, calm, collected. The Arnold Slot penitentiary and shit like that. I think it's just to the fact we're winning games, and every little thing now is annoying us. It's like an ick. It's like when you have a relationship and it starts to go downhill, and you're like, oh, I really fucking hate the way you stack your dishwasher, or things like that. It's like things that would never annoy you in the honeymoon period, but actually things do start to annoy you. But then you've got to work it out. And I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to work out to live with each other.
I wish I could pan that camera over to Izzy at the minute. I really wish. I mean, I'm just sitting there going, what have I done? What have I done? I stacked the dishwasher.
What about my dishwasher skills?
Luckily, she's got her headphones on, so it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, but it's these things are. I think when things are going really well, you'll never even look at them. But when you're sort of looking for holes, then you're like, wow, okay, this is really annoying.
So Conor, same questions. Does his post-match demeanor and interviews add to your frustration? We'll start with that one.
His comments do, in fairness, yeah. Like last night, it's blatantly obvious that there was the wrong choice of squad and everything. And he comes out saying, well, my bench was weak. It's like, you picked the bench. Where are you getting this frustration from of the bench? You picked the bench. You can't just he brings on two teenagers and goes, oh, why do I only have teenagers on my bench? Because you put them there. So it probably is, like Chris said, some sort of deflecting tactic, but it just doesn't make sense. So it is extremely frustrating. And in terms of the general demeanor, I think Chris probably has put the nail on the head there in terms of it's when we're winning, we don't really give a shit what he's saying or doing because we're winning. So he started to pick more up when we start losing. So it probably is a case of that, but I think it's just he's a very different character to Jurgen. I think like he's obviously not going to be running up and down the sidelines screaming at referees and stuff. But it's just a difference in character. But that part doesn't really annoy me as such. But the comments certainly do.
So a really short answer question for both of you. And by the way, I sometimes I project my thoughts onto Chris and Conor to see if I'm delusional or not. So I kind of ask them, right, lads, this is how I'm thinking. How messed up is my brain right now? Or am I on the right track? Because I have to do this with Sabrina all the time. I have these viewpoints and I don't know if it's just my brain being my brain or if this is normal. So sometimes I like to test it with these answers. Disrespectful to the fans in attendance is one of the things on my notes, Chris, that I wanted to discuss. Now, what we know as Liverpool fans is it's difficult to get to games. You and I spoke, Chris, in the green room after our live show about the change to your own circumstance that will mean it'll be more difficult because the credits. Talk us through the credits now that you.
Yeah. So basically, we have to go to 13 games a season. I'm really lucky that me, my mum, my dad, and my brother have been going for 15 years. You know, it was a lot easier to get tickets 15 years ago than it is now. Like it was a lot easier. And we've got history, so we managed to build up. But you have to go to 13 games a season, which is a huge financial commitment. Like a huge financial commitment. That's with travel as well, both ways. So yeah, like I knew quite a few people who went up last night. Bear in mind, they're probably having to take half days from work. And bless them, they saw a shit show, didn't they?
And this is the point that I'm trying to make. I mean, it's all very well and good with Arna saying, well, I need to rest players, I need to do this. But, you know, you don't get your money back. Those people who travel don't get their money back. And I guess the point, Conor, I'd like to make here is you and I run a YouTube channel. Obviously, we interact with Liverpool fans from all around the world every week. I had so many people this week saying it was their first time that they were able to get over to a game. They were bringing their kids over, or they were bringing their dad or their mum or whatever. And they go there, they spend their money, they get there early, they go to the club shop, they brave the weather, they're stuck in traffic, and Arna can just do that and shrug his shoulders and think, oh, well, that's that. That really rubs me up the wrong way as a Liverpool fan, Conor. And I really do feel for those fans who are in that position. Like Chris, I mean, Chris might be able to go to another game in a few weeks' time, but some people, that's it. That's their game for 2 or 3 years.
That's the thing, like, especially people traveling from other countries and stuff. Like, you might only go over to one a year. You might get to one every 10 years. You might only ever get to one in your life. And that's the team you get to see. Like, again, I'm sure you'd be going to that game expecting rotation, but not that level. Like, you'd expect to see at least 3 or 4 of the main players, maybe. Maybe you see Salah for a few minutes. Maybe Kanate starts. You know, you have a few of the big players who's kind of there. And to just watch that, and like I said, people leaving with 20 minutes to go, like, you can't blame them at all, because it's just, how could you sit there and watch that when you just know there's no way of coming back? And you've been, like, all the young lads have been thrown under the bus by the manager as well, because everyone's getting frustrated with the game, getting frustrated at them, and then even bringing Nalo on and then him getting sent off. Like, it's like, obviously the people aren't going to give out about Nalo, obviously, because like he's such a young lad being thrown into that environment, but like, it just,
tell us the stat you told me last night about Nalo. The
16 minutes played, and he's got 2 red cards.
As soon as I saw it was him, I was just like, "Oh no!" Oh,
it's just insane. Though.
I actually missed it in real time because I was reading out a super chat, so I was focused elsewhere. I looked up and I seen Nalo kind of shrugging his shoulders and kind of walking. I was like, "Oh no, please no, not the poor lad again." And then I just finally seen the graphic. I was like, "Oh my god, the poor fella!" And then I seen what it was for.
He's just going to be a quiz question in the future. Bless him. I think. Look, I feel so bad for him because he's had 2 opportunities. You know, and no one can ever take away from him. He's played for Liverpool at Anfield. He's played for Liverpool in the Champions League. But he's always going to have that caveat, isn't he? Bless him. 16 minutes, 2 red cards. First Liverpool player ever 2 red cards in their first 2 matches. Like, that is, for me, it's bless him. I feel really bad.
I do feel for him, yeah, 100%. So one thing that's popped into my mind this week, Conor, is have we underestimated maybe the impact of losing Johnny Heidinger? Because obviously Giovanni van Bronckhorst comes in, but we all know how important the number 2 is to a manager. Sound that Claxon right there now. Don't even have to say his name, and you know what I'm talking about. So Johnny Heidinger obviously came in last year with Arna. We won the league. By all accounts, you know, he looked comfortable at the club. Seemed like the players really liked Johnny as well, even with that Everton background. Now he's off, obviously, over in Ajax. Again, understandable that he wants to take up that opportunity. But you know, it's another thing I think that we could look at this season and think that is part of a lot of the change we've seen.
Yeah, it all just adds into the instability, doesn't it? Like the changes in the summer, Heiting himself leaving, obviously the death of Jota. Like there's just so much different things that happened that would impact the season. Like it's understandable that we'd be going through a bit of a transition, but like not to the point that we are now. Like it's getting a bit ridiculous now. But yeah, like you said, like a number two is important, and just the general day-to-day runnings of everything. Like the more people you have there who are there long term, the easier things run. And when you're trying to integrate new people along with new players and coaches and everything, like it's going to add to the instability. So it's probably not like the sole reason, but I'm sure it is a factor as well, because like it is, again, like I said, just more instability.
I'm going to have a massive leap here, Chris. I'm going to try and pair my relationship with Conor to Arna and Johnny Hiding. Are you ready? This is a stretch. So often at times, Conor knows what I want before I know. So we'll be talking about a thumbnail, and I'll say, I'm thinking this, and then he already has it pre-made, and he goes, well, I was on the same wavelength as you. And then Conor would go away, and we used to have another couple of guys to do thumbnails, and the process becomes far longer, and it becomes far more of a burden in your day. So I'm wondering, it was a similar thing here for the manager. He knows maybe I can leave Johnny set up training, I can leave Johnny Hiding, go over there and do this with Giovanni. Maybe he's still having to micromanage him a bit and things like that. It all just adds in.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I can't profess to know what exactly Johnny Heisinger did or what exactly Giovanni Van Bronckhorst does now.
I don't think any of us can answer that question. The second part.
Well, maybe not, no. But there's got to be some change. And as Conor said, it just feeds in to the consistent, sort of change that we've had over this year. Some of it in our control, some of it not. So what I can say, I don't know the impact. I mean, he's not doing particularly well at Ajax, but some people are, saying maybe he's one of the big influences. Or I was there when it was all Buvac in. There was a whole Buvac movement going on, and then we went and won the Champions League with Pep Linders as our number two, and now he's gone to work for Man City, and they've gone to shit as well. So
hashtag our identity.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, I don't think it's that huge, but it's just another thing to add on to a big pile of things that create one massive thing, which is causing this shit show at the moment.
Well, the opportunity to stop the Rock comes on Saturday night against Aston Villa. So I wanted to, first of all, Conor, talk formation. Do you think we're going to go straight back to the old reliable once again? 4-3-3 or some variation?
God only knows at this point. Like, I thought once we won against Frankfurt, that was it. We're going to stick with that, but it doesn't really seem like it, to be honest. And then last night, we just played a full-on 3 or 5 at the back, whatever way you want to phrase it. Like, so God only knows, to be honest. I would probably opt for whatever system we use against Frankfurt, in all honesty, just because we actually won that game. So, in terms of that, I'd go with that. And then, how are we playing again? Can we not, bring on the international break? I'm sick of watching us lose. It's just too much at this point. Just get away somehow.
It's not like we have three gimmies coming up, Chris.
I know.
Aston Villa, Real Madrid at home with a point to prove after losing to us previously, and Manchester City with Erling Haaland in wonderful form pretty much this season. So yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah, or we could flip that and say we've got a wonderful opportunity to turn it around, Craig. That would be my sort of flip the point. Like, honestly, I don't know what formation we're going to play. I actually don't know who we're going to play. The one big positive from last night for me was Chiesa. I thought Chiesa was unbelievably good last night in terms of the effort he put in from minute 1 to minute 90 and the encouragement he was showing to the young boys. I'd want to have him in the starting 11. I don't think he will be, by the way, but that would just be me. I honestly, as Conor said, let's maybe use the formation we used when we won the match. I know it was Frankfurt and they were fodder, but yeah, Villa in good form as well. They just beat City, didn't they? So it's all looking up.
The really frustrating part last night was, and you mentioned Chiesa. We knew watching that game that Chiesa could score 5, Rio Wingamo could score a hat-trick, and it still wouldn't be in the starting 11 at the weekend. It almost felt like just an absolute waste of everybody's time last night. I want to talk midfield selection, gents, for a minute if I can. We think Gravenberch's going to be available by the sounds of it. He said Ryan is close, so that's good news. Outside of that, what are we thinking? Szoboszlai, Wirtz, or what would you go with for your midfield 3? Oh. If we're going with a 3, sorry, I should say.
I think he brought McAllister off early, didn't he? So I assume that means we're playing him, but I'm not sure. Maybe Szoboszlai right back, because I mean, I to be honest, I really worry about Bradley in terms of getting an early yellow.
Calvin Ramsey in there.
Yeah, and he's shouting for Calvin.
Good, to be fair.
Maybe. Yeah, for me, it would be Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Wirtz. I think it will be Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister.
For yourself, Conor?
I don't think McAllister's going to start just because he played during the week. Like, same with Chiesa. Like, Chiesa's not going to start because the excuse will be, well, he's been overplayed now. He's played 90 minutes. I've given him his minutes. What do you want from me now? Like, he's played. So, like, he's definitely not going to start. I think McAllister won't start. I think Szoboszlai and Wirtz, and then probably a toss-up between Gravenberch and Jones. Or Jones actually, wasn't he?
Oh, Jones has
some sort of...
Jones is one of the players he's talking about being injured. In my head, it's Isak, Jones, Alisson, Frimpong. Frimpong's out for 6 weeks, gents, by the way. We probably should mention that.
So probably Gravenberch then. Gravenberch's Szoboszlai, Wirtz is what I would go with then. If Jones is fit, I'd probably start him over Gravenberch, just not to rush Ryan back. But other than that, I'd go Gravenberch.
So this should be a pretty straightforward answer for everybody, and I'll start off. The question is Robbo or Kirkes, and I mean, it'll probably be Kirkes based off the Premier League teams he's selected so far, but for me, it's got to be Andy Robertson for this one. For yourself, Chris?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, he played in midweek, but it's got to be. I think that element of stability needs to be put in, and we need to potentially just sort of reel him back and ask him to be a sort of genuine fullback rather than a wing back, because that's where we've been punished, and that's where we will be exposed again if we're not careful against Villa.
So yourself, Conor, a bit of Milos Kirkes or Andy Robertson? Now, bear in mind, you are now half Scottish, having been in Edinburgh this week.
That is true, yeah. I'd go with Kirkes because he's brilliant. No, I can't wait to watch Kirkes anymore.
I'd go with Kirkes because I've got 50 quid on a yellow card.
He's just been like a headless chicken, though, hasn't he? Like, he has just been awful. And, like, I'm sure he will come good, but my God, he's been absolutely shocking the first few weeks of the season. So, definitely Robertson. And then if we are playing that, like, 4-4 or 4-4-2, 3-5-2 type of thing, at least then Bradley or Calvin Ramsey or whoever starts to right back and push up, and Robbo slots in. Because, like, I trust Robbo in that kind of central position more than Kirkes. Could you imagine Kirkes playing left centre-back? Like,
imagine showing us at the start of the season this podcast and we're actually genuinely talking about Calvin Ramsey. Like,
Isak, Wirtz and all in. It was like, yeah, Calvin Ramsey has to start.
Get Calvin Ramsey in. What the fuck?
Yeah, I can't believe we're actually... I mean, you're right, though, Chris. He did put in a decent shift. I'll give him that for his first game in 3 years with the seniors, but... Oh, lads, it's... Is it wrong, Chris, that I'm nowhere near giving up on Milos Kirkes, though? Like, I don't. I just think this is just genuinely a shit time for him. But I do back him to come good.
There's evidence there. I mean, he's got all the raw ability, I think, to really succeed in this team. I just think it's so unstable. I think the system's unstable at the moment. The personnel he's playing with, it's changing all the time. He's not able to build relationships. I think it would be right as the manager to take him out the firing line at the moment, because there is a lot of pressure on him. Play him in the Champions League games, because I think he's actually looked better in the Champions League games. I think that you're definitely not wrong to think that, because we saw it all last season, what an incredible fullback he can be. It's just not really working. As I mentioned before, him and Gakpo, I just think are completely incompatible.
So, if the worst came to the worst, and for whatever reason Arne did lose his job, whether this be now, Christmas, end of the season, any ideas on who you'd like to see? Because, you know, this is the now conversation amongst Liverpool fans. And I'm going to be honest, I've always answered this question with, no, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I haven't really thought about it for various reasons. But I guess we should have the conversation. And I think a good jumping off point, Conor, is probably Andoni Iraola, just as a jumping off point, because certainly a manager who has excelled at each level he's gone to, from Rayo Vallecano. This is where I started to watch his football. Then obviously he comes into the Premier League and takes up a Bournemouth team that have again been fleeced of a lot of the great players, has them second in the league table, I think, if I'm not mistaken, second or third, and playing really good football. But there's also the whole Brendan Rodgers argument to be made there, in that, you know, is this another one step too far if it was him? Now, Chelsea apparently have an eye on him as well. I know Juventus did. I think they ended up going with Spalletti in the end, but Juventus were talking about him. You know, as a jumping off point, would he be somebody you would think would be in the frame?
I think he'd definitely be in the running. Whether he'd actually get the job or not is another thing, because I think it'd be similar to Slot, really, wouldn't it? Like, it's like, obviously Premier League is a step up from the Dutch league, but like, again, it's a bit of an unknown quantity or entity or whatever you want to say, in terms of he hasn't done it at the top. But then again, how many managers have? I think that's part of the reason why I'm on this like sliding scale of like, if Slot was sacked after losing the next 2 games, I wouldn't be heartbroken, but I think I'd probably push more for it if, like, I don't know, let's say if Klopp was available and we'd all thought, yes, that is the perfect thing to do, I would push and saying, yes, get him in. Or if Ancelotti or Hansi Flick, whoever you want to say, like, if someone was actually available we thought was the man, I think we'd all be pushing a little bit more. But it's the unknown, like I said, like people talk about Glasner as well and a few others, and it's just like would it really work? Like, we might have a new manager bounce and win a trophy or 2, maybe win the FA Cup or something, but like, is there an obvious choice that will guarantee us success for the next 3 to 5 years? I don't think there is.
Boom. There's your choice. Boom.
I don't think he'd want to come back, though.
I don't think he would either. But there's a point that Conor made that it leaned into something somebody said to me last night. The decision to go with Arne, Chris, was supposed to be one that was statistically similar in the style of football and the way we played to Jurgen. And yet it's only taken 1 season for that style to completely look alien to every single one of us. So where is that matching gone, you know?
Yeah. I don't know, to be honest. It's systemic. It's personnel. There's so many combining factors for that. I like, at the start of the season, we saw, I think, a lot of that where we had...
I think he has sunstroke. That's...
Yeah.
That's the best I can come up with.
Loves to buy.
That Dubai son.
Listen, fair play, but there's a lot of things going on with that in terms of managers to bring in. Honestly, that's where I'm completely stuck. I hear your Iota, I hear Oliver Glasner, but
they don't excite you though, do they? Let's be honest. Like, they don't get you going thinking, yeah, he's that guy.
Yeah,
it's a maybe.
Dare I say it for a little bit of a morale boost?
Don't fucking say Gerrard.
Steve G likes No thoughts?
Interim stuff maybe, but then you're into that whole Kenny Dalglish conversation. Like last time, like if he does well,
like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then, like, isn't it? It's just like, oh, he does well, keep him, he's brilliant. Like, when he's not.
Yeah, I to be honest, that's why I'm so overwhelmingly on a slot in, because he's gone in.
Well, I'd actually rather, Chris, that he added Gerrard to his backroom team now than bring Gerrard in on his own. Yeah,
it's part of, as I say, like, it'd be great actually to have Stevie in and around. I think it would have a huge positively effect on the. Well, you saw what happened to Curtis Jones when he was coming through. Like, he had a massive role model in Gerrard. Same with Trent.
Gerrard had Gary Mack.
Yeah.
Now Dominic Szoboszlai can have Steven Gerrard. There we go.
Be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Imagine improving Szoboszlai, the absolute warrior we're seeing this season, improving him with a bit of Stevie G magic as well.
Can't complain, can we? But yeah, that as I said, that's why I'm so overwhelmingly slot in, because there is no one out there who is available who is anywhere near the level that he showed last season. So I honestly don't know who else you can get apart from a little morale boosting Stevie G.
I'm going to give an answer based purely off vibes. I've no idea what even style of football he plays, but Cesc Fabregas, could you imagine?
Blimey.
Can you imagine Arsenal fans?
Yeah, the heads are just.
Because they somehow still want him and Arteta, because it's kind of got that whole United fans owning Ronaldo in their minds kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So let's look at it another way then. Everybody in the world's available to you. You can go out there tomorrow and have a conversation with the manager. Who are you looking to bring in to make Liverpool what you want them to be? One name that I want to rule out is Simeone, because he's a football terrorist and I don't want him anywhere near Anfield. And I'm also going to stick the boot in to talk about Zidane, because he doesn't speak English, and culturally I just don't think he is the right man for Liverpool. So they're 2 names I'd like to rule out of the conversation early if I can. But after that, hand on heart, I don't know. I don't know, because do you want a project manager or do you want a steady the ship manager? So do you look for an Ancelotti type character? Or
I was gonna say him, and
because he has the gravitas, as well. Definitely has that. And was probably, if I remember correctly, it was him or Jurgen back when Jurgen came in. Now, we made the right decision, of course.
I think Frank de
None of
Boer
us
was
would
up there
regret
as well,
that.
wasn't he?
Oh yeah, Frank de
Pardon?
Boer.
Frank de Boer was up there as well.
Yeah, I'm done with Dutch now. We're finished with Dutch. If Arna succeeds or fails, whatever happens, we're finished with Dutch after this, in my mind. Unless Dirk Kuyt wants to come in as a coach somewhere, then we'll have a little bit of Dirk, no problem. But yeah, that's kind of where my head would be at, because Hansi Flick, I'm kind of meh about, if a little bit, to be honest. Alonso, it'll involve a big system change at that point. So you're probably talking genuinely a few years to knit it all together. So outside of that, I don't know. We've got Inzaghi, who's gone over to, or excuse me, Simeone Inzaghi, who's gone over to somewhere in Saudi.
Yeah.
I'm running out of names, lads. So
the thing with Ancelotti for me, because back in 2015 it would not have been the right time, because he is an incredible elite manager. There's some managers who are so good at bringing clubs up from nothing and helping them sustain. Ancelotti isn't that. His greatest success has always come at huge clubs. And imagine how much piss it would boil on the blue side of the city. It would be absolutely incredible to see him come in. I don't know whether our fans would actually, be slightly annoyed with getting an Evertonian in, but I don't think he really gave a shit about Everton, right?
No, I'm not really giving a shit. No. Same way with the Benitez thing. When he went to Everton, it didn't really bother me one bit, because it was almost like a sympathy project at that point.
They were fuming, weren't they? That was an incredible time, that. But yeah, that Ancelotti, because we have so many great big players, but I wouldn't go for someone who was a project now, because I don't think we are a project anymore. I think we're a huge institution that needs to be kept as huge. So,
Conor, me and Chris have both shit the bed with this answer, so now it's all on you, mate, to save the club. What have you got for us?
You've put out all these World Cup winners, all these like top level managers. I raise you a Damien Duff. Is there anything to be said for Damien Duff?
When you talk about league title winning managers,
Exactly.
Shells.
Been and done it, seasoned. It's so hard to know, isn't it? I feel like a couple of years ago I might have thought like so maybe Nagelsmann or maybe even Tuchel or somebody like that. But again, like maybe it is just the case that there is like not that many top level managers in the game at the minute. Like maybe they've all just got old, and like say Mourinho a couple of years ago, like, but he's just completely out of the loop now in terms of modern football. So maybe it is a case of just there is no seasoned top level managers around anymore, or not nearly as many as there used to be.
That, and I think Conor, football's changing. We're in the Pep revolution's almost changing now, and so Tony Pulis is where I'm going, lads, because we know where football is right now. Tony Pulis,
Big Sam,
grouchy, lacing up a pair of boots. Harry Redknapp, even.
Full circle.
Let's go long.
Everything's coming full circle, man. It is actually ridiculous. Like,
I thought you said Skirtle there. I was saying just a rogue show, Martin Skirtle.
Well, I see George Graham in the stands in the Arsenal games recently. He knows how to keep a clean sheet. Maybe we could get him in. It's it is actually genuinely a good mental exercise, because I can't think of who at all, and this is give myself a blank checkbook and every manager in the world available. And what about Marseille's manager, Chris? Anything to be said there?
No.
High
as Mason Greenwood. End of story.
That is the big sticking point there for me as well, mate. I'm not going to lie.
What about the man from Brighton, Hersler?
Great hairline.
Yeah, but then the Brighton managers seem to just be completely...
Keith Andrews.
There we go.
Deal done.
So there's nothing to be said for Ange.
That's the man to sort our defence out, isn't it? That's the man to sort our defence out.
Yeah. But at least we know one thing. We've talked about Arna not fully committing to that PSG attacking person from the front thing. At least we wouldn't have that doubt about Ange Postecoglou that we're going to be at least pushing forward. Milos Kerkez, we'd probably be hearing the phrase, higher Milos, higher, higher up the pitch, more space in behind, more space.
That's what we do, mate.
Right, so I've just asked ChatGPT who should be the next manager. Let's see what it says. Xabi Alonso and Ruben Amorim the second. So there we go. That's the logic of AI.
That's it, lads. We've completely ruined ourselves and won a podcast. Well done. We've started off up here and we've ended up absolutely exposing ourselves for being frauds. So well done. Another great episode in the bag, ladies and gentlemen. So we will be back, obviously, after the victory, the morale boosting victory against Aston Villa on Saturday. We'll be back at some point over the weekend. Thank you to Conor, thank you to Chris, and of course, if you guys have any suggestions on anything that we've spoken about in this podcast, please do let us know if you're watching this on YouTube in the comment section. Of course, if you checked it out on Spotify, make sure that you give us a follow on there as well. Right, ladies and gents, thank you very much. Thank you to Chris, thank you to Conor. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.